Hello friends, welcome back for some Bitcoin technical analysis with me, your pal Rocky Outcrop. Got to remember to try and finish this episode before my cup of tea goes cold. Let's take a look at the chart, shall we? Thank you for joining me today. You can see I've got the weekly chart up behind me. This is the Bitstamp Bitcoin versus US dollar chart on the weekly, and we've got this sort of rough channel that we were discussing in yesterday's episode that we're kind of within here, as you can see on this time frame. Now, of course, we could draw it several different ways and say we've actually broken out of it and all sorts of stuff like that, but we've just got this general idea here as just to really kind of to point out, look, we're in this upward overall trend, and for the last handful of weeks here. But at the same time, as you can see quite big on the screen, the volume's just been going down just consistently as the price has been going up consistently. And at some point, something's got to give, and that's kind of what we're keeping an eye out for. You can see here over the last few weeks, we've come up to the, really ever since even back as far as March, we've come very close to this 0.5 Fibonacci retracement line here since the move down from Valentine's Day to Friday the 13th, and we've come up and we've touched off that a few times. Of course, we've come up to our horizontal line up here at 7,450-ish, and we've not really managed to break up above this quite yet. And the question kind of remains on the charts here: will we make it up to this 50% retracement from the on the body-to-body Fibonacci retracement, for instance, up at 7,600, and try and around this 21 EMA on the weekly chart here, and test off that, and maybe perhaps go on up or not? And will we just continue the sort of overall downward trend that we've had, where you can see that we've had lower highs and lower lows, generally speaking, for quite a while? So that's the kind of the question. We'll go down to the 2-day time frame and take a look at where things are coming in recently in terms of oscillators and whatnot. What have we? And between these highs on the way up here, we weren't really getting any divergence on the 2-day time frame worth writing home about, apart from just over here on the MACD where there's a little touch of it. And then we've come down since. Have we got a downward trend that we could look at in a little bit more micro detail? I suppose perhaps if the prices were to turn around here at the 7,130-50 area where they came to, and then go on down, then perhaps here we could be looking at this and saying, is this a downward trend? And the lows are continually lower on these things. Maybe not so much on this. This is kind of confusing. And on the MACD for sure. So that's just convergence. There's no divergence there, but that's again being a little bit sort of, it's too early days yet to be making those assessments in terms of that. What about the shapes of this thing? We've been keeping our eye out to say, could we get any sort of head and shoulders or reversal type shape or anything like that on the go? And there isn't really anything, quite yet. Perhaps we could get some formation here coming up. So we'll be keeping our eye out for how that would pan out. And there's a few different areas where the price would need to go past. So let's take a look down again at lower time frames and see. But just for now, we can see that we're between the 50, which is this 50 simple moving average here, red dotted line, and the 55 EMA, which is the green line just there, and we're above the yellow 21 EMA on the daily time frame, which is all quite positive really for the prices. But of course, there is that diminishing volume. And so far we've not actually put in another high yet. We'd need to see the prices go above 7,377. If the prices do turn around and go down from here, then what we've done so far is actually just put in a lower high and been rejected, so to speak, by these resistance points here. And again, we'd be going back down to test towards the bottom of this channel, and perhaps then actually having perhaps broken out of the channel how we had it drawn in previously. Really, we'd just see that continue on down. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Let's go on down again to another time frame. Take a look at the 12-hour time frame just now and see if there's anything jumping out. No, things seem to be more or less the same, congruent there. There's perhaps just the barest of touches of bullish divergence. Let's just see if that's showing up more clearly on the 4-hour time frame for us. So we've got this sort of so-called downward downward trend here on the 4-hour time frame. Perhaps, you know, if this comes in and isn't a higher high than this over here, as we've spoken about that 7150 area in the past episodes. By the way, like, subscribe, all that jazz, do these daily. And we've been taking a look recently in the past and saying, you know, 7150, 7200 is what we need to see the prices go up above, or else we'd be making a lower high. And so far, that's kind of what's going on here. So during this downwards trend, and there was in previous episodes as well, we saw that there was, between the couple of points here, there was some bullish divergence, and we saw the prices go up as part of this attempt to make a higher high. And on the just before then, between these two lows, there was actually, it was convergent. The bullish divergence was between the two previous lows to that, and we've come up so far and not actually managed to make a higher high, despite the fact that the oscillators down below have indeed gone higher, which is hidden bearish divergence currently. So we're convergent there. We've got hidden bearish divergence, but we are above all of the major moving oscillators here, or moving averages here, and so the 233 just underneath where the prices are currently is our current little support line level at 7,000 area, and that makes a bit of sense in terms of potentially that being a bit of a pivoty price here. So we're looking at and asking the question about whether or not we get in a higher high or not, and if we did drop on down, then where could we see the prices go down as low as, just as a sort of starting point, where you've got 6,600 area where we had our previous lows at. You know, we'd be coming in there, and then we could maybe look again, revisit this and see if we're getting some sort of divergence showing up. Should this go down here, make another lower low, and then the oscillators not go down as far, then we'll have a bit of divergence on that side for the bullish case. Should they actually go down and the oscillators also go on down with them, then of course that's just convergent, and we'll see how that hidden bearish divergence plays out, and be looking towards this 200 here at 6,500 and seeing where things go. You know, if we break down below all those areas, as we can see, haven't had various support and resistance in this chunk of time in the past in the area, those various areas there, then we'll be looking down to the next couple of 236 Fibonacci's, for instance, here, and of course the 382. So the three levels, I suppose, are the 6,450 level that we're well aware of. Of course, 6,600 areas we were talking about before, 6,400 thereafter, 6,150 or so, and then 5,500 or so would be the next big sort of chunks down. And where's the 200 simple coming in at 6,500? So that's something to be bearing in mind, I suppose, perhaps on this thing over here. So that's kind of going to sum us up for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you as well if you watched the Ethereum video yesterday, where we also looked at oil for the crack, and also looked then as well, because I'd forgotten about the 4-hour gap on the CMEs. Did I mention it in this one? We have had, I didn't actually mention it, so just before tuning out, I suppose I'll say we had this gap here in the 4-hour time frame. We don't really put a lot of stock in these gaps, and we're kind of then asking, that was this we noticed this was a partial fill in previous episodes. Just go on the 24 hours so you can see sort of, oh, is that being filled? You know, you kind of ask the question, has it been filled? And zoom in a wee bit and see that it got mighty close really to fill in that gap, but it didn't quite do it yet. So we've still got that waiting for us to happen. If you put much stock in 4-hour gaps, I don't particularly myself. So anyway, it's there though. They do tend to get filled easier and stuff like that anyhow. Wouldn't be surprised, I suppose, if we did see that fully get filled, but then, you know, there's different various areas of confluence in here with different Fibonacci retracements and where you could see the prices going and turn around anyhow. So, you know, like, it makes sense that that was where the gap was, and that you could, you know, anyway. So that's, but it's not been filled fully yet, but it's almost been filled. And what else do we have over here in terms of this? Will that do us? Will that do us? Will that do us? Are we going to get one of these formations here happening? Will we see some sort of head and shoulders event? Maybe, perhaps. I wonder, over the longer period of time. Anyway, something's got to give at some point with the volume going down all the time consistently over the course of the last wee while. We want to see something happening in and around all these different areas that we've identified already. So yes, of course, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll be back once again with another video tomorrow. Yeah, cheers.